Good evening, everyone. How are you? I hope everyone is well. As we are getting down to the end of the semester and our next to last speaker, I can't believe the fall semester is almost over, but looking forward to it being over. If you are not muted, please mute yourself. This is Webex, and this session is being recorded so we can place it on our YouTube channel. Craig, these are our inaugural cohort of SPAA ambassadors. We were extremely excited to have students be leaders for the School of Public Affairs and Administration. They are broken up into 4 subcommittees: marketing and recruiting, fundraising, community building, and focus groups. And right now we are in the midst of a crowdfunding campaign that we are looking to raise $10,000 for the next cohort of SPAA ambassadors. So every year we are going to recruit 10 leaders to serve in this role. When I say to you that this inaugural cohort is absolutely amazing, it still is an understatement as to what they've brought to the table, the work that they have accomplished. We talk about because of the work that they have done, some of our business processes in SPAA have to change as well because of everything that they have already done, and it's only the first half of the year. Part of being a leader in this ambassador program is we want to give them an opportunity to connect with alumni who are leaders in their field, and an opportunity to ask questions, network with other people, and to have this intimate time just for them and our illustrious alumni. And Craig, we met at a scholarship dinner, and I've just been impressed ever since. So I'm extremely grateful for your time this evening. I'm going to read a short bio, and then I'm going to turn it over to Craig. Craig Goodwin-Ortiz de León is a nonprofit financial leader who serves as the Assistant Vice President of Finance and Administration at the Hispanic Federation and as Board Treasurer for the Empire City Men's Chorus in New York. He holds a bachelor's degree in liberal studies and a BSBA in accounting from Thomas Edison State University, as well as a master's degree in public administration and nonprofit management from the School of Public Affairs and Administration at Rutgers University North. Finally, he is currently a doctoral student at Grand Canyon University, where he pursues a doctor of philosophy in industrial and organizational psychology. Craig is also a certified nonprofit accounting professional, originally from New Jersey, and currently lives in Queens with his husband of 7 years. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Craig.
Thank you so much, Sharon. What a great introduction, and a wonderful introduction to the program. Part of the reason I chose Rutgers is its access to professionals in public administration as faculty, and there's such wonderful resources. And then Sharon mentioned the great leadership of you students that are here, but I know from my experience that every graduate of SPAA is going to be a leader in their fields, just because of the wonderful education and the opportunities for networking that exist there. And I was a fully online student, so I didn't take classes at the Newark campus, but still got to experience so much of Rutgers University's resources and SPAA's resources. And it's just really a wonderful thing to be able to say I got my master's degree at Rutgers and from SPAA. And people know when they hear SPAA that it means professional. So I guess what I'm going to go over, and excuse my voice is a little hoarse from having COVID the last couple of weeks. I was fighting that, and I'm glad I was able to make it here today. But just a brief overview. Going to talk a little bit about my career trajectory and how I got to Rutgers SPAA in my late 30s, and how that's benefited me in the past year since I graduated. And then I'll kind of talk about the pros and cons of the nonprofit space, especially after COVID and, well, during COVID. We're not post-COVID yet. So to begin, I mean, I was, when I graduated high school, I was working at Wendy's in Matawan, New Jersey. And, they saw potential in me to be a manager. So I took advantage of that. And I worked at Wendy's for nearly 20 years. I started out by doing French fries when I was in high school, but then eventually over the years, I worked as a accountant in the franchise owner's office. He personally taught me accounting, so I could do the work of accounting for 10 restaurants, doing payroll and accounts payable and keeping daily cash counts and all those things. And then I got tired of that after about 8 years of it, and I went back into the restaurants. I like dealing with people, and decided that, I could have a better experience with people as being a manager again. So I got back into it and eventually became what they call a training store manager, where I trained other managers for both company stores and franchise stores. And it was a job I really did enjoy. People put down flipping burgers, but it really was a good job. With only a high school education, I was able to get up to a $50,000 a year salary, which isn't bad. But I did start to kind of not enjoy the long hours of management. I mean, I was working 70 hours a week, and it was a lot of work, even though it was rewarding in a lot of ways. Once you start having a family and you get older, those hours really add up, and you don't have that energy you have when you're 20 to put into it. And I just kind of felt also that I had the potential to do something more. There was just this nagging feeling. And it just happened that a friend of mine who worked at a nonprofit organization said, hey, I know you have some accounting experience and we need an accountant temporarily. Would you consider, interviewing for that? And I did, and they hired me for a temporary position. But after a week of seeing my work, they made me a full-time employee. So that was my chance to change and get out of working in restaurants, slaving away. But then I realized quickly in that position that I didn't want to just be a staff accountant. I wanted to be in a management role because management was what I enjoyed doing. So I realized I'd have to go back to school. I had gone to community college. I went to Brookdale Community College in Monmouth County. Took some classes at DeVry, took some classes here and there and everywhere. I went to University of Phoenix, took a class, over the years. So I ended up with all these credits, and I saw that the fastest way to a bachelor's degree was to put them all together and call it a liberal studies degree at Thomas Edison State University. And so it only meant I had to take about 3 more classes and a capstone course to get my bachelor's degree that I never did finish. So, but even that, the goal was really to get a master's degree. I knew I needed a master's degree because I had already had the salary and the skills of a person with a bachelor's degree. So to get higher, I needed the master's degree. And it didn't take much shopping around. Rutgers, I grew up in New Jersey, so I was well aware of Rutgers University, and I have friends from there. So, I finished that bachelor's degree as quickly as I could. In 2017, enrolled at Rutgers. Literally the same month I graduated. I graduated in September of 2017. That was my first class at Rutgers for the master's degree. I was enrolled pending the issuance of my diploma from Thomas Edison. They were good enough to let me in and trust that I was going to indeed finish that. And I did. So, and then while I was going to Rutgers, I was also getting a second bachelor's degree in accounting to, demonstrate what I knew in accounting. And so I finished my second bachelor's degree in December of last year, and I got my MPA in January of this year. So I worked that all out. So I hope I didn't go too long on that story, but so but once I got the master's degree and in the process of it, I mean, I learned so much. You're all, I don't know if you're, is this all master's students? Some of you are bachelor students, right? So, you kind of learn the same things. It's just the intensity of it is different. You learn analytical skills at the master's level and how to kind of, synthesize information and you'll get experience with statistics and doing a study as your capstone, which, the capstone for my MPA, I chose to examine the revenue diversification of nonprofit organizations. Some nonprofits tend to, put all their eggs in one basket, and, they may have services they provide and get fees for it and do nothing else. Some may just get government grants and do nothing else. But most don't nowadays. They focus on getting a little bit of everything, so that way when something like COVID happens, you're in a position that if government funding suddenly drops out from under you, which is what's happening right now in a lot of cases, you have something to fall back on. You have a fundraising base, or you have, fees for services that you're charging that can support those services. So, that was a very interesting capstone to do. And I had Dr. Weiwei Lin as my capstone advisor, who just happened to also do that kind of study herself. She is very focused on nonprofit management in her work. So it was a very good kind of partnership with her. And she was actually able to point me to other authors, and, I could deal directly with them, which I think if I had gone to another university, I wouldn't have had that access. So that was amazing. But learning the skills of budgeting, management, how governments operate is good for me to know, even in my nonprofit space, because I deal with government agencies all the time. And knowing how they work and how they do their budgets makes that relationship so much easier. I don't have a learning curve when I walk into a government agency's office. I know how their structure is. I know how their culture may be. I know how, the craft of their management and what they see as important in their eyes, and how they have to really rely on the law to do their jobs. So, it's not like in a nonprofit where we're really a private employer and much of what we do is in our handbook, right? Government agencies are following what the law tells them they have to do, and their budget is a legal document. So, knowing that really does help with the relationships. And then I did want to talk a little bit about, how the degree kind of directly benefited me financially, because it did. I was working as a fiscal manager for Asian Americans for Equality when I was getting my MPA. And I approached my managers and said, or the owner, well, I'm sorry, not owners, the the executive directors. And I said, hey, I've done all this. These are the skills I have now, and I think, I can move to this level in the organization. And as it turns out, the timing wasn't really right for the organization. They were going through a leadership transition. Their executive directors had been forced into retirement by the board, and they brought in new leaders. So what that meant for me is like, yeah, I mean, we might be interested in doing that with you, but it's going to take a few years. So I said, you know what? I don't know if I want to lose income while I'm waiting for that to happen. So I started searching. I said, well, maybe I can do better. I have a master's degree in my hand and 2 bachelor's degrees that I didn't have before. And I found the Hispanic Federation was looking for an assistant VP for finance and administration. That job title was right where I wanted to be, because I think I could even be the VP, but I won't tell my boss that. But she actually, it is a good fit, because she actually is looking to retire in a few years. So it's like, that opportunity will present itself with patience. And, so my salary is now about $30,000 more than what it was before, just because I was able to be an expert in nonprofit finance. I understand nonprofit management. I understand how government works. These things were all selling points. And, my history as a manager and dealing with people, those soft skills all play, build up into it. Now, if you're young and, you don't really have experience to back up, you have to take the education you have and the contacts you have and the networks you have, and, use that as leverage, and really stay focused on learning the professional side of your space. If you're going into nonprofit management, if you're going into a government agency, learn what the people who are there are doing. That's big. If you can attend, I've attended countless webinars on all kinds of things, from leadership skills, public speaking skills, to hiring people. I mean, anything I can get my hands on. I'm just like a sponge for education. That's why I'm going to get my PhD. I love it. I love learning, and that's how I got where I am today. So yeah, I mean, the degree has definitely helped. It has definitely helped. Because just saying something is not the same as here's my degree proving that I know these things. And I'm going to kind of transition now into the industry with COVID. And then we're going to have time for questions. So I want to make sure I leave that time. Before COVID, the focus in the nonprofit space was really on strategic planning. I think many nonprofits had been just focusing on getting their operations in place and learning about how to just get by every day. Just, we want to provide our services. And the focus was always, helping people, because that's what we do. We're there to help people. We're building houses. We're addressing inequality. We're doing all these things. But then there's the management side of that was being neglected. So many boards were starting in the last couple of years to focus on strategic planning and look at developing a plan for the next 3 to 5 years in terms of, what their goals were, their mission, how were they going to fundraise to meet those missions, and that's become incredibly important. They've been building reserves, so fundraising not just for their initiatives that they're always trying to fundraise for, but also fundraising for capital campaigns. Many facilities have aged, and people need money to rebuild them or restore them. And then also just having a fund for an emergency. So having funds set aside that, even though they've been donated, do not go directly to the problems we're having now. It's for the problems in the future, because you never know what could happen. And then COVID happened, right? And then everything changed. Everything changed. Nonprofits have pivoted. Good nonprofit managers have learned to pivot immediately to virtual services, and also to disaster relief and emergency response. So at my organization, at the Hispanic Federation, we were already dealing with the aftermath of Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. So that happened in 2017, and we were still, distributing money to nonprofits in Puerto Rico that could solve the problems they were still having. There's still places with no roofs on their buildings. There's still people not getting food. There's still people, struggling with that aftermath. And then in January, we had several earthquakes there, late December, early January. So then we had to pivot there. We had to say, okay, now we're addressing the earthquake and the hurricane at the same time. Then COVID came. So it wasn't just in Puerto Rico anymore. We're doing disaster relief all over the United States, while also dealing with the fact that we have an election coming up. Now it's passed, but we had an election coming up that we were trying to get people to go out and vote. We had to deal with the fact that the census is being done and people still needed to be counted so that they're represented, because so many populations would be underrepresented. And we needed to make sure that even though this crisis is happening, we're still doing that. So that work still had to be done. But right here in Manhattan, I live in Queens, but in Manhattan, we saw when COVID came, all the businesses shut down, as you all know. And so many small businesses were facing going out of business, having mountains of debt. And, we partnered with New York Presbyterian Hospital in Northern Manhattan to give out, I think we've given out nearly $8 million in aid to small businesses. I mean, places like little restaurants that you go to, bodegas, anything you can think of. We've been able to help those people stay in business. And so that is very gratifying on one level, that we've been able to do that in an emergency and still continue to address social justice issues, equality and equity, which we've seen with COVID is, disproportionately affecting people of color. And it's so disturbing. And, we already knew that was going to happen, right? Everybody knew. If you've been doing any kind of studying and research in public administration, we already knew this, that inequality and inequity and structural racism caused all kinds of disasters to be amplified in these communities. So, it was no shock to us that's what happened. So we wanted to, try to address it as best we can by getting, outreach into neighborhoods with, that are being affected more by COVID, and get people the help they need. And when you don't speak English, sometimes it's just a matter of getting someone to communicate resources in your language to you. Yes, as a white person who speaks English, I can just watch TV and I know that I can call 311. And when I got COVID, I knew I could get in a hotel if I needed to. I knew I could get food. I knew I could get medical attention for free. Did everybody know that? No. The people who are living in apartments with 7 other people, and don't speak English and aren't able to separate because they don't even know that's available. So that's what the job of the nonprofit is to do, is to fill the gap where these services are needed. And I'm very proud to be a nonprofit leader. And, I hope that we can keep, just trucking through and I missed the last 2 weeks of work with fighting COVID myself, but I can't wait to get back on Monday and keep that going. And even though I'm in the finance side, I don't directly serve people, but it's without finance and financial management and budgeting, you can't perform the services you need to perform. So my job, I consider just as important as the person who walks up, knocks on your door and says, hey, did you fill out your census yet? So I couldn't do any of this had I not, gotten my education at Rutgers and worked with people just like you. I think there is one member that I was in classes with. I don't remember who it was, but there is one member of your group that I was in a class. I saw the list in the newsletter, and I was like, I know that person. Anybody fully online? Yeah, great. So, being an online student is kind of extra special because you have to have a little bit higher skill level because you need to be really organized. It's all about putting everything in your calendar, every little due date, blocking time to work on your studies. Because I feel like if you're in person, I guess you're all experiencing this now because you've been thrown into online. I just realized that's the reality now. But being in person, you kind of can learn through osmosis a little bit. You don't really have to do too much. It's still work, but if you're online, you're doing it all yourself. You're reading everything, and it's up to you to reach out to your instructors if you're not getting something and say, hey, what else can I be looking up to get this? Even if it's looking at a YouTube video to to get more information. So I think I'm done with everything I wanted to discuss. Am I good with time, Sharon? Okay. So is it Q&A time, I believe?
Craig, thank you so much. That was really informative. I do have a question, but I'm going to hold mine to the end. So unmute yourself and ask away. Like, I could possibly think of 5 off the top of my head, but I won't take your time.
I'll ask a question. Hi, my name is Samantha. As a fellow 30-something now pursuing my MBA all online, I applaud you for going back after all this time. I know a lot of people who say, oh, well, if I didn't get it right out of school, there's no point in getting it now. And I totally couldn't disagree more. I think that it was the best decision I ever made to go back to school. So my question for you is, what did you find most difficult about going back to school in your 30s? And obviously it wasn't too difficult because now you're going for your PhD as well. And what did you find most interesting when you went back? What did you enjoy learning the most about when you went back?
Okay, well, the most difficult thing was really the time management piece. I mean, every part of your life expects that part of your life to be the highest priority. So, my job is obviously a high priority because without it, I can't pay for school. So, right? My family, not just my husband, but my extended family too. Well, they're also, they're the biggest priority in reality. No matter what else you're doing, your family is your priority. And if you have children, see, I don't have children, so that is an advantage, I feel, because I feel like I've seen people do this and they have kids. And, so that means they're not coming home after work and doing schoolwork. They're taking care of their kids. And then they put them to bed and they're doing it at midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning. So, my hat's off to anyone who can handle that, because that's something that I didn't face. And I think I had a little bit of an advantage there. The other part of the question, what was most interesting? Was that the word you used, the most interesting? So, like I said, the most interesting was just being able to get to be able to really get a lot out of all the reading we do, and that magic of when things start to come together. I remember when I first took that intro to PA class, and I was reading Classics of Public Administration by Shafritz, and I'm like, what have I gotten myself into? This is so it's so huge, and you're just getting a little bit here and there. Like in that first class, they give you a little bit of everything. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? But then as time goes on and it just starts to meld together, and you do some external reading, and you have to kind of take the initiative yourself. It's not gonna just absorb. You have to really actively read quite a bit. As I moved into the PhD, I mean, reading is even more important. To really start synthesizing information and learning to write about it. The PhD is a whole new animal. It's completely different from a master's. So if you're considering it, just really be prepared, because it's not the same at all. So yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely the magic of learning was the most interesting thing. Thanks, Samantha.
Hi, Sakina. How did you go about selling this new degree that you have and using that to elevate? Because that's the reason I went back as well. I have the experience, I have the know-how of how to do the task of roles that are higher than mine, but it's selling that I have the management experience now, or the management know-how, things of that nature.
Well, I think the key is really presenting yourself as a professional and an expert. And I used that word in my interviews. I said, I am the expert here. This is what I do. This is what I know. And this is how I can apply that to the position you're looking to fill. And, And then I have, it's not just about getting the job too. I mean, once you get the job, you have to prove that, right? You can't just say, "Oh, I'm going to be great for you," and then get there and, you don't know anything. Now you may know, there may be things you don't know, right? There's always going to be something you don't know, but at least handle it professionally and know where the answers are. And I think that's a key. We learn in our MPA program where to find the answers when we don't know. I keep a lot of reference books at my desk, which I've now brought home, and I don't have room for them, but I have to have them because, I've referred to, I don't know if any of you are taking, if you're nonprofit concentrations, but there's a budgeting class, and I still use that textbook. It's such a good textbook for budgeting and financial management that I still refer to it. I refer to the public management textbook, and the MPA program. Shout out to Dr. Serena Lowe, because she was just amazing professor for that class. But and I think that just presenting yourself as a professional who knows what she's doing, who knows she belongs in this role and can communicate that, that's a key for all of you. I think really look for a position where you can apply the skills you have. Nice to meet you, Sakina.
Hi, Craig.
Hi, Ifioma. I think you were in my class, weren't you? No? Maybe it might have been in the fall of 2019. I don't know.
2019? What class was it?
Ethics, maybe? Did you take ethics then? No, okay. Ethics. I took ethics and I don't remember.
Oh my gosh, no, I am fully online though, so I don't know, maybe. But I did.
Your name looks familiar. I also went to high school with a girl named Ifioma as well, so maybe that's why.
It could be. So it's okay. Hopefully. I hope if it was me, I hope I was I hope I loved.
Of course, all the students were amazing to with. So yeah, I never had any problems with students.
Oh, ooh.
Professors at Rutgers. No. The master's level, you hope that people are more mature than at the undergraduate level.
Yeah.
The good thing about being online is you can ignore when people act like idiots online. When I was getting my undergraduate degree online, I was so shocked that people were willing to treat a discussion forum like a Facebook page. So inappropriate. I mean, I don't know how they get anywhere in their lives. But anyway.
Yeah, online is interesting, but it's been great. I actually have a couple of questions. So one is more, I guess, personal, and it's more so like a visual because I'm just noticing. I'm not even gonna lie. It has to do with like the medals that I see in the background, and then the other one is completely about what we're talking about.
That's my accomplishment corner over there. So you see my degrees. And so my husband and I were both marathon runners, and I completed 4 marathons and many other races and triathlons. I actually was injured and I walked the entire New York City Marathon on the last time I did it, and it took me like 10 hours. It was the most horrible thing I've ever done in my life. Running a marathon is way easier than walking one, I'll tell you right now.
Wow.
But before getting degrees, that was probably the best accomplishment I ever had. So thank you for noticing my.
Yeah. I need to make a comment. This is impressive. I've only done a 5K race, but I'll do a half marathon. I'm gonna work my way up. So
you can do it. You can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah. And then my other question was in relation to the capstone project. So it's going to be further down the line for me, but I actually am interested in how people get to their capstone project. So how did you decide your capstone?
Yeah, that's a great question. Throughout my program, I had been focused on housing issues, public housing in particular. I was doing a lot of work on NYCHA, New York City Housing Authority, and they were going through some scandals, so it was like perfect for me, you know. I did a nice project for the public management class on you know, their culture and management culture, and they had just changed leaders at the time. And I thought, well, you know, this was the direction I was heading. I was working for a housing agency at the time. And then, you know, as I got closer to the capstone, though, and I got to the class, I thought about it, and I talked with Dr. Lin, and I talked with some other folks, you know, about it, other students, and, you know, my employer even, you know, I talked to kind of get everybody's feel, and you know, Dr. Lin really emphasized that, you know, it really should be associated with the work you're going to be doing. And while I really did feel passionate about housing issues and the inequalities I see in housing, I said, well, you know, I'm in finance. This is my, you know, nest. This is where my bread and butter is too. So, you know, I should do something that's a little bit more finance oriented. So that's why I chose looking at revenues. And you know, I wanted to see, you know, what's making nonprofits successful. So specifically what I wanted to see was the did nonprofits change how they diversified their revenues after the Great Recession? So I looked at what was going on through IRS records. I was looking at what happened before the Great Recession, how diverse they were versus after. And I did actually find that they became more diverse. They learned their lesson from that experience. And it would be really interesting to do it again after COVID. Yeah. And see what nonprofits have learned from the COVID experience. But yeah, it was really just through discussion and kind of reflection on how it can benefit me in my leadership role as a finance person. You know, I kind of don't like being put in the finance box, since my knowledge really is broad for nonprofit management, you know. So even though I'm the finance person, people at work come to me for every kind of thing. Fundraising advice, they come to me for management advice, HR stuff. I have a lot of experience with HR, and you know, that was the best thing about moving to this company, is that people respect my knowledge and they come to me for advice. They see me as an expert. At my last job, I did not have that. They saw me as someone who never got a college degree. So that meant he doesn't know anything and he can just, you know, do data entry and he's fine. When in reality, I was in charge, and I was, you know, they were coming to me for the staff was coming to me for everything, and management had no idea of all the extra work I was doing, of all the way I held up their finance department, because sadly, when I left, everything I had worked for kind of fell apart there. Even though I had transitioned them and I did all the things you're supposed to do to, you know, I did work for them after I left, even to help them. You know, I did consulting work with them that they paid me for, and they ended up 100% turnover in their finance office. Everybody left. And part of that is they didn't really know, you know, they don't treat their people right, and that's what happens. They've changed their ways a lot since then, so I'm glad to see that the new leadership, they hired an HR person and they're fixing it. But like I said in my presentation, I couldn't wait around for them to fix it. Sometimes you got to take action to do what's right for you. You know, a lot of employers, you know, even nonprofits, they're bleeding hearts, but they're going to look out for themselves before they look out for their employees. That's just the culture of work life nowadays. You know, my father worked for the same company for 40 years. He was loyal to that company. And, you know, he retired and now they're out of business. But, you know, not everybody gets pensions anymore because companies aren't looking out for you. They're looking out for themselves. So you got to look out for yourself too. And that means presenting yourself as a professional showing that you're the expert. And, you know, if it's not working out at your current job, you got to find another one, because there's another one out there and it's right for you. Because you'll know when the job might be right for you now and you're fine. And then after a year, you're like, you know what? I'm not getting anywhere. And I know there's just going to be this feeling that's in your head. I could be doing better than this. And I know it. And once you have a feeling, it's time to start searching.
Hi, Craig. I'm Roslyn. I'm a part-time student in the MPA program. Thank you for your presentation and your insight. This is a two-part question. I want to know, what do you think the future holds for nonprofit organizations after COVID, and the ways that they are lacking now? What are some ways that we can strengthen their relationship in the community and make them better serve others and the public?
That's a good question. Do you want to ask your other question now or wait till I answer?
Oh, that was it. Where I put the projection and so what does the future hold for nonprofits after COVID? And then what are some ways to improve the services in the future?
Okay. So, you know, after COVID, I think nonprofits are really going to be focusing on, they're going to continue looking at their strategic plans, but they're going to be focused more on business continuity and addressing emergency situations. I mean, not just nonprofits, businesses in general will be doing this. But I think for nonprofits, it's a little more special again, right? We have, you know, we have government funding that comes in that we depend on in almost every nonprofit. And I think, you know, nonprofit managers really need to pay attention to what would happen if this funding disappears. Because, you know, it happened at my organization this year. You know, once they realized that, you know, the tax income is not coming in anymore to fund the budget that they planned on, they needed to cut. And they didn't cut everything, but they said, okay, you need to be able to justify keeping this funding. And we had to jump through a lot of hoops to keep our money. And we had to fight. We had to lobby to government at the local level. I mean, we're in New York City, so we have that layer of government. There's state funding. I guess I shouldn't say specific numbers, but we have state funding that was awarded to us in 2019 that we spent the money thinking it was going to be reimbursed. And we still haven't gotten it. So here we are almost in 2021. And, you know, the state assembly person who we've been dealing with is saying, you're probably not getting that money. And, you know, that's coming out of our own fundraising now to reimburse ourselves because, you know, if the government doesn't pay, then it's us paying. So, and fortunately, we had the cash position that we were able to do that. But there's so many small nonprofits out there, you know, if they're not getting those reimbursements, they can't operate now because they're depending on that reimbursement right now. And that means that, you know, they may have to cut their services and nobody wants to do that, or they may have to lay people off. There are a lot of nonprofits that have had to lay people off if they didn't get a PPP loan or, you know, the government funding was cut. You know, we've been lucky that, you know, we did get the PPP loan. We've been able to keep every one of our staff members employed. And that is a huge deal because, you know, we're talking about 100 employees across several states and Puerto Rico. So, you know, to be able to keep everyone in their job virtually, mind you, I mean, we're all working from home, 100% of the staff, and still able to provide services virtually and in person in some cases, it's a pretty good thing. Now, to keep those services going, the second part of your question, Roslyn, I think it's, you know, continuing to develop relationships with government agencies and politicians. In New York in particular, now I'm not really familiar with New Jersey's politics anymore, and since I moved out like 10 years ago, I used to follow up. I used to listen to New Jersey news a lot because New Jersey has just had such an interesting political animal. but it's hard to keep track of 2 states. So I chose to deal with New York because that's where I am. But we have this, our city government in New York City is its own special government. And, you have to have relationships with the city council here to get money. And, they put in what they call discretionary funding. And, the city council members, the borough presidents are all sources of funds. And if you can get them to recognize what you're doing, they will make sure you're getting money. One interesting thing that happened, as an example, when at the agency I used to work at, when they changed their executive directors, those executive directors left, so did the relationships. So, when they left, the city council members, the same ones, didn't want to talk to us anymore. The state assembly people didn't want to talk to us because they had the relationship with those people. It wasn't the relationship with the organization. It was with those people that led the organization. So you have to really get some buy-in from politicians to your mission and not the people who are leading your organization. It needs to be about the mission. So if you serve on a board or you're an executive director, you got to put your ego aside and make it about the mission. Because, if you lose that funding, I mean, if you're trying to, address inequities, and you can get that person to buy into the fact that there's structural racism that's keeping people from getting this service, and you're the one who can fill the gap and make sure that happens, then, that's going to carry through. It's going to transcend whoever the leadership is. So, I think that's critical. Just develop these relationships in a way that focuses on the mission and not you. It's not about you. It's about the mission.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So my name is Aya. I have a question. So I'm
Hi.
studying your PhD, so I'm kind of interested in getting a PhD. So I wanted to ask what's the experiences like, especially with everything going on. How are you handling it, with work? How do you have to fix in a PhD and all of that? And how is the experience like generally?
Well, I am doing my PhD fully online. I can't afford to quit my job and be at Rutgers every day walking the campus as much as I would love that. I would love to be at Rutgers or NYU studying public administration. And so what I've done instead, I've kind of done, because I really do love studying public administration. I'm majoring in industrial organizational psychology, but I'm focusing on public organizations. So that's how I kind of managed to combine my interests. So it's actually quite fascinating. A former Rutgers professor has done a lot of work on behavioral public administration. Dr. Van Ryzen has done work on that, and he's there now. And I've reached out to him. So I'm looking at examining behavioral public administration to see, where I can go. Now, I just started the PhD, so I'm at a very high, broad level of reading. I'm also learning the ins and outs of psychology. I mean, I took a few classes, but to major in it as a PhD, it's intense. But being online means, it's the same time management skills that I needed before. That hasn't changed. What's changed is that, the dissertation at this program is at the same time as the coursework. So I have to be working on the dissertation reading while I'm doing coursework. Most PhDs are they work in a serial kind of way. You do the coursework first. When you're done with that, you'll do some comprehensive exams, and then you move on to your dissertation phase. So, and that takes a little longer. It probably takes about, 7 years. Depends on the program. This program I'm doing should take, it'll definitely take at least 4, but it could be up to 6. So, it all depends on me. We'll see. So, I've seen already that it's very easy to kind of say, oh, the dissertation's far away. I can put that on the side for now. And I keep telling myself that. And it's already been, 3 classes have passed by and I haven't done much work on the dissertation stuff. So it does go very quickly when when the semesters go by very fast, and it's like, it's intense. But I do encourage you to do it if you feel that academic life is something that you want to do. I mean, part of the reason I'm doing this is I would love to be an adjunct instructor or writing journal articles on my own. I mean, I would love to teach a section of, public management or public budgeting at Rutgers MPA students. I mean, that would just make my life happy. I'm not looking to become a full-time professor, or some, like Dr. Ricucci is like, what is her title? It's like Grand Goddess Professor Emeritus. I mean, she has the best title ever. I don't remember what it was.
Board of Governors Distinguished Professor.
Yes, that's what it is. Board of Governors Distinguished Professor. It sounds like she should wear a crown. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have 5 minutes. Craig, this was absolutely amazing. I mean,
Thank you. I was very nervous about it. Sorry.
No. So here is, thank you. Thank you on behalf of the Dean, the faculty, staff, and students. You definitely represent what it means, the values, the tenets of SPAA, competency, diversity, ethic, knowledge, and service, all in one person. Absolutely amazing. So I want to thank you on behalf. This was really a great presentation, especially when you are still recovering from COVID.
Thank you very much. And it's really nice to meet all of you and see so many exciting faces who are the future of public administration, nonprofit management, and all that goes with that.